Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of The Truth is Barrel Proof. I'm Jack Bigadoo, also known as the Hood Sommelier. And if you're here, thank you so much for joining. A new location today. So if the internet is lagging a little bit, please be patient with me. So I make sure that we actually get our guest the proper attention he needs. Whiskey Wednesday. What better way to talk about new whiskey? One of the things I like to do is to always introduce you guys to something that is different that you may not have seen the market or heard of, which also gives the opportunity to brands to kind of show their you know their whiskey or tell their stories. The goal here is for them to tell us who they are, what they do, why are they in the market, and hopefully we learn a little bit about them. So next time we picking up their bottle, we know exactly who we are supporting. Again, if you're here, if you're on Facebook, make sure you give this a like, share this with your favorite whiskey group. And if you're on YouTube, say hello. We'll make sure we display it. And if you're anywhere else on LinkedIn or on Twitter, we'll love for you to just put a thumbs up or tell us hello. We'll make sure to, we'll love to hear from you. His name is Martinez, and he's a kid from, I believe, from all the flags, maybe a little confused, but Puerto Rico is what I kept seeing from the flag, if I know my flags well. And we were supposed to talk almost 6 months ago, and life had been lifing. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to touch this bottle. I am not going to uh, dig to get information. I want to talk to you. I want to know your story because you're one of those rare people that actually honored me by saying, hey, I know about you and I would love for you to try my whiskey. So I'm honored to have him on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Micheal Martinez from Fincasa. I want to make sure I get a Fincasa whiskey. Micheal, welcome to the show.
Hey Jack, welcome. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be a part of your show. Like you said, I've been following kind of your journey over the past few years, and just bringing a whiskey brand to the market. You were definitely one of those individuals I want to make sure I personally reached out to, just a perspective of just like minorities doing stuff inside of the whiskey space. I want to make sure that we had that connection, because really the Fincasa, how it's pronounced, it's a brand about culture. And I started the idea or the concept of this brand kind of started about 4 years ago. We launched our first batch back in October, which is what you have today. It is a rye whiskey that we finish in rum barrels. And there's a whole entire, reason why we do that. And there's a lot to talk about with the whiskey. We're very transparent because I myself, I was a whiskey drinker. I was a whiskey nerd. I jumped into that rabbit hole like we all do, purchased so many, different types of bottles, went bottle chasing, right? Um, and then my passion really grew into how do I, um, mix both my passions of whiskey and my culture together. And the idea of Fincasa, which it's a combination of two words, finca meaning farm and casa meaning house, like a farmhouse or like the farm's home. Um, Kind of came about through passion of whiskey, passion of my culture, and passion of putting out a good product for the consumers.
Absolutely. But let's start with you as a person. Uh,
Yeah.
I went and did a little bit of research about you. You seem like you have a long resume yourself. You have a lot of background in military from what I've
Yes.
seen. So tell the people who is Michael Martinez, right? That's who I want to
Yeah.
know. Who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like those are one of those weird questions. Like, well, who am I? I grew up in New York. I was born in Puerto Rico. Grew up in New York, Long Island area. If you're familiar with the kind of like how New York is set up. Um, in my 20s, I joined the military. I enlisted, went to college, became an officer in the military. I've been inside the military for 14 years now. which has taken me all across the world on different, deployments and mobilizations. I'm still in the Army, in the reserves. So I still kind of do that part time. My full time job is I support the Army also as a civilian. So I work hand in hand with soldiers and other Army civilians, kind of just supporting the different missions that we do across, around the world. It's definitely an honor and privilege to have served. And it's
Thank you for your
yeah,
service.
no, thank you. It's a great opportunity to kind of continue to give back to our country. And and like I said, yeah, about 4 years ago, I had just this crazy idea of how do I start a whiskey brand? How do I get there? So then I just kind of started jumping down that rabbit hole, not just from a perspective of what do these different whiskeys taste like? How do I, what angle am I going for? But really educating myself on that process, educating myself on, barrel maturation, barrel finishing, because we do barrel finishes. That's what we're specializing in. How to actually get into the market, working with distributors, working with stores. So it's been a very interesting journey to learn all these different things because there's not just one Wikipedia page on how to start a whiskey brand. And from for those that were in the Army, there's a manual for everything to do in the Army, right? It's you just read a document and you kind of just figure it out, whether if you how to drive a car, how to do oil change. It's there. There's a limited amount of resources really on whiskey. A lot of the information that I actually was able to obtain and is listening to the various interviews of different distillers, blenders, and just like understanding the market. So the podcast industry really helped inform me on, hey, what are the steps that I have to do? And then I also went and did some extra, supplemental training, Moonshine University, University of Louisville, the business certificate. Um, Anything I could do, like if I found a distiller and I was like, hey, do you mind if I just come and watch you distill? Right. I just jumped at those opportunities. I worked for as a consultant almost, helping import mezcal and Sotol from Mexico into the US. And that allowed me to like kind of really understand how the entire industry works from that perspective, which is very similar to producing inside the US. But that's kind of me in a nutshell. A guy from New York joined the military, and kind of stumbled his way into owning a whiskey brand.
And we can, I always say it is something to commend. Uh, Most folks don't understand what it takes to actually own a whiskey brand. And like you mentioned, it's something that takes a lot, from education to learning from other folks and really investing your time, effort, and I mean, blood, sweat, and tear to create something that you can call your own. It's easy to just slap a label or something and call it your whiskey, but when you actually understand the journey, it's a big deal.
Hmm.
Now, let's get into it. Very interesting bottle. I really love the design of this bottle, the design of the
Thank
label,
you.
what you put in this bottle. For me, it's quite interesting. Um, the question I ask most people is intentionality, choice, right? Choice.
Yep.
You decided to go a direction versus another direction.
Hmm.
What a kid from Puerto Rico grew up in New York. Why didn't you say, you know what, I want to go back to Puerto Rico and maybe create the first Puerto Rican, whiskey? But you said, you know what, I want to import the whiskey from, the best place in the United States that
Hmm.
can make some whiskey, and then I want to age it in something that is more closer to me, which would be, rum from my side of, my roots and origin.
Yeah.
Why that combination and not the other way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally two parts, right? First, I originally wanted to do the entire project in Puerto Rico. I had the intention of saying, okay, let's figure out what I have to do in terms of a process to bring barrels to Puerto Rico. And also my intent was to source whiskey, right? And my original intent was to source young whiskey and let it mature in Puerto Rico for at least 1 to 2 years, and then pull those barrels, and then also subtly on figuring out, can I do a rum barrel finish in Puerto Rico also. um, and that journey was a very interesting journey because the the Puerto Rican government is a world different than the U.S. government, and it's not like, it's not in a negative way, but it's really a different, even though it is a U.S. territory and there's a lot of laws that kind of coincide with each other. The TTB is a federal regulator in Puerto Rico, but it's different, and the
The
process.
politicking in every
Yeah,
side of the country is a
yeah,
little different. Yeah.
yeah. So to get there, and to actually establish it, the steps took a lot. It was taking a lot longer, and for me, I want to hit certain benchmarks. So it got to a point where I kind of understood, if I continue down this route, because I don't live there full time, I live in the US. um, it was not a feasible business decision to continue that route, that I had to
Yeah.
pivot and figure out what's the next best thing. And that next best thing was partnering with a distillery in Miami, Florida. And it We chose Miami, Florida intentionally because it's the closest climate to the Caribbean and Puerto
Puerto
Rico.
Rico. Yeah.
We like attention, like you said, everything, a part of my process, everything on the bottle is very intentional. So we wanted to have high heat, high humidity impact when we're doing our barrel finishing, just because, like, to offer a different expression of saying, hey, well, if we're aging rum in the Caribbean in this climate, I want my rum barrel finish to have that same exact impact, and to provide a different maturation process, um, to the barrels. And then
Okay.
focusing on the rum barrel finish, um, everything I want to do with the brand, I want to have like an intent, right? I want to make sure there's a purpose behind it.
Why rum?
Yeah, rum. Well, rum is historically known Puerto Rico, right? There's history of rum in the Caribbean and Latin America. I myself, as a Latino growing up in America, I have friends from all different countries, from South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, and it's a big part of my life. So I wanted to make sure I kind of paid homage to that portion of my culture and life, and what a great way to do that by doing a rum barrel finish. Now,
Are those barrels from Puerto Rico?
okay, so our first barrels are not from Puerto Rico. We do have a Puerto Rican batch coming later this year.
Okay.
But our mission and goal for Fincasa is each batch we do will highlight a different rum country. So
Okay.
our first batch is highlighting Barbados rum barrels.
Okay.
Later this year, we're gonna have another Barbados rum barrel batch, another Puerto Rican rum barrel batch. But eventually, I want to continue to explore different countries by having a
That have
single,
rum as their,
yes,
we talking,
having
mostly covering all the Caribbean and all their different style of rum making, and possibly
exactly.
have their barrel with your. So now let's look at it. Now I believe genius combination. Rum rye always works. I tell people
Yes.
rum and rye is probably the best combination when it comes to finishing spirit. So I immediately, when I saw your choice, I was like, okay, good choice. This man knew what he was doing. He probably
Mhm.
drink, whiskey himself, and he knows that a good rye in a rum barrel can be either a disaster or a miracle, beautiful things that come about. Now, you chose a distillery in Miami, Florida. I'm sorry, in Florida. I don't know why I thought about Miami, because I feel Miami is like hot.
Oh no,
So
they're yeah, no, no, they're in Miami. The
they are in
distillery is in
Miami.
Miami.
So I
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I am
yeah.
paying attention. So you choose a place in Miami, Florida. You bring your, you take your, from what I read on the barrel, because you're quite transparent. you did say that your rye is coming from Indiana.
Yep.
Is it a 95.5 rye?
So this is where it gets interesting. This batch actually is the two rye mash bills from Indiana. It's the
Okay.
95.5 rye and the 51 was it 5145 4
Hmm.
rye. So it has this unique, it's not too heavy in the rye grain where like that corn from that second mash bill brings it in. And the two so another aspect of, again, I really, my whiskey nerd came into everything, all the decisions
Hmm.
we've made. Um, we're only doing 4 barrels at a time per batch. We're
Okay.
not going to do these large batch blends. Our small batch expression, and in the future, we're going to have more expressions that may include more barrels. But our small batch expressions, we're only doing 4 barrels at a time, and that's what you have
And this
now.
is the first batch.
First batch,
Is
yep, we
you
had about.
you really, I mean, I love what you've done because you truly wanted to make sure that even somebody who didn't know a lot about, you know, whiskey in general, when they grab this barrel, I'm a nerd just like you, but
Mhm.
when you grab this barrel, this bottle in your hand, you have all the answers right in front of you. Without this interview, you can probably tell me more about this bottle if you're an average drinker. You know
Yep.
that the classes, and you made it obviously in Spanish and in English as well. It's a rye whiskey. It's been minimum 3 years old. This is the first batch. The date to bottle is September 13 of 2023. 617 bottle. The proof is 100. It was distilled originally in Indiana, and you finished it between 6 and 12 months in Barbados rum barrels and a Big Cypress distillery in Miami, Florida. It's like you are. I don't think I know any brand that comes in and say, "I will tell you everything you need to know
Yeah.
before you drink my whiskey," and that you get an A+ for. I
Yeah. Thank
appreciate
you.
your transparency because it can either burn you or make you. Some people are really uppity about the type of whiskey they're
Hmm.
drinking. So I'm glad you actually kept it so clean and so straightforward that even the average person,
Yep.
right? You know, the average abuela or or
Yeah.
anybody
No.
can
No.
actually come, your
Absolutely.
uncle, can actually keep it as, oh, I know what this kid made.
Yeah.
So we've talking enough about the whiskey.
Yeah.
Now
Let's
let's see
let's
let's see what you actually
let.
did by tasting it and see what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Ooh.
while you taste, so I kind of view my role in as like in our what our company is we're a curator of rye whiskeys in rum barrels and
Hmm.
highlighting those different rum regions, right? I'm excited to eventually explore the funkiness from Jamaica, right? El
Hmm.
Salvadorian rum,
Hmm.
Venezuelan rum. I want to highlight those rums through the whiskey that we have. And I'm not tied to Indiana whiskey or rye whiskey. Over time, I want to explore the
The
I want
rise, yeah.
I want to explore the best quality products that exist out there, and provide it that are available and that
Ooh,
exist and provide
that
it to the
nose
customer.
is funky.
Barbados makes
Okay.
great. Yeah, they
Yeah,
make.
Barbados does make great rum, but the nose actually remind me of cinnamon, like cinnamon cake. That's what the
Mm,
nose remind me
hmm.
of, cinnamon cake. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when they make nut cinnamon cake, usually will have like nutmeg, will have,
Yeah.
some people call it Christmas cake, but it's one of those cinnamon, nutmeg, and
Hmm.
it's some red fruit in it. It's
Yeah, like you said, you
I
really
love
can't go wrong with a rum barrel finished rye whiskey.
I really love that. It's 100 proof.
Yeah.
And like I said, the design only is just beautiful. I'm sure bartenders will love you because it's an easy bottle to hold and
Yep.
pour from.
So like, and while you kind of knows it, like you said, everything is with intention. And I wanted to make sure. when people pick up our bottle and they either have spoken to me or maybe once they see this interview, they're able to tell the story of the bottle the way I tell the story. Because the back label is actually a replica of a 1935 agricultural census from Puerto Rico. So we've
Mm,
replicated it to show, and what we have, I have documents from my family from Puerto Rico that had family farms, and we replicated it in our document. It shows like all the different agriculture they had, the sugar cane, the coffee beans, all the different stuff. But we want to like show that in our bottle. We actually placed my great grandfather's farm number here on the side. It says 776B. So we placed my great grandfather's farm number here. Um, on the Barbados side, each barrel that we do will have a stamp on the side of the bottle. That stamp will show what country the barrels are coming from. The color of the stamp will coincide with the top tamper tape label, which is a cigar ring.
mhm, mhm.
So as you collect more Fincasa bottles, you'll start to have a collection that you could see on your wall of, oh, that's the Barbados barrel, that's the Puerto Rican.
Mhm.
If we want
Mm.
we want you to collect every country that we have. Um,
Oh, that's pretty dope.
the front of the bottle, we have that cigar tape, just like you see on
Yep.
a cigar box with the mountains of Puerto Rico and just like a farm esque background. And a quick little story. While we've integrated the tobacco elements, my grandmother, she actually, when she was a little girl, she grew up on her father's tobacco farm, and she would sow the tobacco leaves into the warehouse so they would dry. And my great grandfather would either sell the tobacco leaves or roll his own cigars. And he smoked a cigar every day of his life until he was 92 years old. And I remember going to his house and just smelling that cigar smoke. And we want to make sure that everything in our bottle pays homage to our culture, our farming, our agriculture of Puerto Rico.
Uh, Approachable. That's the first word that come to mind. Approachable. It's very, very, very much approachable. I was a little nervous because of the age of your spirit. I was a
Yep.
bit nervous because I was like, okay, 3-year-old rye can tend to be a low grain forward
Hmm.
sometime and will not, may advertently affect the the taste of the whiskey. But that rum barrel round it up, like it
Yeah.
rounded perfectly, giving it almost like cake batter, and
Yep.
those spice notes stayed in the back to keep you interested in the whiskey itself.
Hmm.
This is quite dangerous. This is
Yeah.
it totally, I mean, 100% will pair
Yeah.
perfectly with a cigar. That there is no
Yep.
doubt about that. It will 100% pair with a cigar. But the dangerous part, it goes down really easy. It goes
Yep.
down quite easy. And if you pour this even on ice on a hot day, you
Yes.
can still enjoy it. I mean, think about
Hmm.
Puerto Rico, Caribbean
Yeah.
hot weather. I mean, and I can already see a few cocktails
Yeah.
that can totally work with this. And you kept
Yeah.
it at a good proof. At 100 proof, it can still hold its weight in the
Hmm.
cocktail. Still be that. So you made a lot of very smart decision. And I hope and pray that people truly give your bottle a chance because this is solid.
Thank you.
No bullshit. This is solid. So first thing I'm gonna display here is your website. For people that don't know
Yes.
where
Thank
to
you.
find you, is it's it this is the website that is scrolling under lowly under the screen. But go on Instagram, type exactly Fincasa Whiskey. You'll find them. Same thing on Facebook. I tagged them on the Facebook post.
Hmm.
I challenge you to give this brother a try because rum and rye. I tell you what, I never been an immigrant. I never poured rum and rye blend at a party. and it was not a hit. As a matter of fact, Saturday, a friend of mine that I introduced another rum and rye to said, "Is there any other bottles that are rum barrel
Hmm.
or rye that are rum? Because I love that sweetness of the rum
Yeah.
and a little bit of kick of that rye. Is there any other bottles that I can find?" And I say, as a matter of fact, I have an interview coming up. You should listen to it because this brother is making it. I haven't tasted yet, but it's almost impossible with what I read on this
Hmm.
bottle that it will be terrible.
Yeah.
So if you're here right now and you love first, if you're a cigar smoker, shame on you if you don't have this in your portfolio. You gotta have this. If you smoke cigar,
Hmm.
especially if you like those peppery, really heavy, dry Connecticut's, yeah, you need this to add to it. This on some ice, you will be in heaven. But second, if you love, I like to say, I love contrast taste, sweet and spicy,
Yeah.
right?
Perfect.
Tart, tart, and like I like those opposites things, savory and spicy. So for me, when somebody creates that in whiskey, I get excited.
Hmm.
I get excitement out of it. Yeah, congrats. You did well.
Thank you.
I
Th-
was nervous for a
so
3-year-old whiskey.
listen,
I
man,
was very nervous. I
you,
was very
you,
nervous for
yeah,
you.
I was nervous too. I was
I
like,
didn't want to make a face. I was like,
yeah,
God, please help me. This
no,
brother did it the right way. We know people come up with a lot of, the best way to put it. And people put out a lot of bullshit out there.
yeah,
I love the story. I love the authenticity. You know, uh, if you're in from the Hispanic background, we're getting into Cinco de Mayo. I know you want to drink tequila, but get out of the realm, challenge yourself, get something different, and support a Latino that is putting something on the
yeah.
market that is different than your average. Tequila is great, but sometimes you want something different. And this right
Thank you.
here, it's is one of those things that I believe you definitely could use. Um, Guys, if you have any questions, if you're watching and you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Ask the question because he can give you more
Yeah,
details.
I will.
But right now, as I'm stepping on this, I'm quite excited.
Yeah, it is. And again, I'm 100% transparent. I will, if anybody ever has questions for me, I will answer them. Like I said, I'm down to the years and months of the barrels. I have nothing to hide. I'm literally a curator of taking great whiskey, like just exactly what a lot of other companies do. We're taking great whiskey and some great rums, and we're taking those barrels and we're making magic happen because I like you said, that spice and sweetness notes blended together. For me, it represents like Caribbean cuisine in general.
Correct.
So I really wanted to, again, everything was very intentional. There was intent behind everything, even the 100 proof, right? We wanted to make sure that if you're a whiskey nerd, you have a higher proof to sip neat. If it's hot in the sun, you could pour it over ice. If you want a cocktail, you could pour it in that cocktail without losing those flavors that we want you to have, and to enjoy.
I'm looking at this now, and I am very very much so excited about this because I'm looking at everything that I'm tasting. Even the
Mhm.
aftertaste and it is solid through and through, solid through and through. Um, the question is, what is the MSRP on this whiskey? A lot of people will ask. That's the default of most.
Yeah,
Everybody asks, "Oh, how much, how much is it going to cost me to actually own this whiskey? What's the MSRP on?"
yeah. So our target MSRP is 84.99,
Okay,
based off of and again, here's my transparency, probably over transparent, based on kind of like the competitors within the rum barrel finish category. It's around that $80 to even $100 price range. So we wanted to make sure that we were closer towards that $80 at 85.99, and you know it's priced based off of uh, us selling to distributors, which then sell to stores, which then sell to the consumer. So, you could do backwards math. The average, you know, price increase is typically 30% each time it hits a different person. So if you want to go and do the basic math, you could figure out like what that wholesale price is, and what the FOB price, what freight on board pricing that I sell to distributor, and that's kind of like full transparency. Like my margins are not that large. There's no investor or backer in this
That's
company.
what I was about to say. When I hear
Yeah,
certain prices, I already know what that means.
yeah. I'm 100% the owner of this brand. I signed up for another 4 more years with the military, got a bonus, and bought my first barrels. So like everything is my own money that I've invested on, and I betted on myself and betted on like this idea of a brand. So if we're talking about supporting small businesses, and I'm the small guy. I don't have a celebrity license to my marketing budget. Like I'm a one-man show. Everything you see on Instagram is what I'm
It
posting.
literally came from
Like
you, yes,
so,
directly
so
from
like
you.
when you message me on Instagram, you're messaging me. So
Yep.
and it's one of those interesting things that you deal with when you're trying to get into this kind of industry, because you know one of those questions I always get is like, will you ever open a distillery? And I personally, at the moment, I don't have plans to open a distillery. Maybe
No,
eventually
I think
down.
what you're doing is
It,
fun.
it,
I
yeah,
think
it's
it
a
gives you
barrel, like
really
a
the
barrel
option
house.
to truly explore and do all the things, especially
Yep.
doing small batches. The only thing I would say is I would love to see, if I had a point of contention, I say I would love to see older rise,
Yes.
see those 5 to 6 year old rise. I feel like those age in those barrels are gonna produce more and fantastic. But we know,
Yeah.
just being you, 5 to 6 year old rye on the market right now costs an arm and a leg.
Well, I
So
have
just
I have
being
great
you,
news. I do have great
yes,
news for you. These next two batches coming out is using 5-year-old rye whiskey.
okay. I'm looking forward
It,
to
it,
this.
it is we and again we're constantly I'm constantly looking at the barrel market, both from like what rye whiskey is available out there, as well as what rum barrels are, because
Correct.
rum barrels are as cyclical as whiskey is, right? Because usually, a little inside baseball, distilleries will only sell you a container full of rum barrels to a barrel broker, and then they kind of piece it off. If a distillery from a specific country is not dumping their rum yet in
Hmm.
that year, then there's no maybe next year there's no Barbados rum barrels available. Maybe there's
Correct.
no Jamaican.
Correct.
So it's really the whatever the market, the global market of consumption and production is what we're looking to see. Okay, hey, what do we have available this year? And luckily, I was able to grab some Puerto Rican rum barrels, because those, let me tell you, those are the hardest things to get, because every time you speak to a
I
Puerto
can
Rican,
only imagine. I can only
they're like,
imagine.
nope, not selling my rum barrels. So again, we're everything we've done is intentional to really, pay homage to culture, pay homage to that whiskey culture that exists today, that for everyone that wants to know everything about the whiskey and our process and what we're doing. You have a fellow whiskey nerd thinking about, okay, hey, what is my steps, what are my processes, what am I going to do to make sure I give my customers the best experience they could have.
I'll tell you what. I want to first thank you for taking the time to come here and chat with me. I will make sure this interview is published everywhere and that people know more about you. Hopefully, it attract some new customers that actually,
Yes.
really enjoy what you do. But before we leave here, what should people expect out of the brand for you dropped a little some hints before, but what are we looking at in 2024? What is coming up? What's coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, so 2024, we're going to be dumping two more batches. So those batches will probably give us around 800 bottles each. Um, we're really close to sort of selling out of this first batch. If
Good.
you're, if
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And if you're in Puerto Rico, we have our bottles in Puerto Rico. So if you're on a vacation, check out our website, check out our Instagram. We're going to constantly be providing those updates. Um, and we're just going to continue to be that curator of rye whiskey and rum barrels, continue to be transparent, and continue to try to excel. um, if you follow our page, you'll see that we entered the San Francisco spirits competition where we won bronze in our very
Yeah,
first year.
congratulations, bro.
You know,
That's a big deal.
proud of that. We have um, I can't publicly announce it yet, but we have a few more medals coming down the pipeline from other
Good.
competitions, and we're going to constantly, push the envelope with that rum barrel focus, and we're and that's how we're separating ourselves, because there's a few handful of rum barrel whiskeys out there, which I've tasted them all, and a lot of them are great, but we want to push that envelope. We want to highlight and tell the stories of these different countries, whether it's in the Caribbean, South America, or Central America. We're going to continue to tell those stories through our whiskey, and hopefully one day we have a brick and mortar establishment, and you guys can come visit us, and we'll welcome you with all of our hospitality.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you coming here. Fincasa. Fincasa whiskey, it's here to stay. More things to go. Rum, rye, whiskey lover, rye lover, rum lover, cigar lover. This is something you have to own. Even if you grab one bottle, I think it's gonna intrigue a lot of your friends. This is a bottle that you can pour to impress your friend on ice or either in a cocktail. It will hold itself. His name is Micheal Martinez. He is serving our country and serving us good spirit. You can't beat that. You can't beat that.
Brother,
Thank you so
thank
much
you.
for being here, brother man. Salute.
Cheers.
And for all of you guys here, happy to be here. Thanks for supporting, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.